As I ring the Tibetan bowl as a call to service, listen as the sound fills the sanctuary and then recedes back into the silence. This is the time to open your hearts, to receive what we bring to each other, what this service will bring to you this morning. Thank you, Michael. Well, good morning. Good morning and welcome members and friends and visitors, both in the sanctuary and on Zoom, to the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River, a church that is special in our lives, active in the world, and grounded in love and justice. Many churches this morning are celebrating Palm Sunday, the Sunday before Holy Week when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, and the crowds waved palms and cheered him just days before they would turn on him, leading to the crucifixion. You'll see folks on the street, maybe with palms coming out of their churches. Don't be disappointed if we don't have any palm for you. But I do have a quote, a wonderful quote from Leo Pascaglia that helps explain to me, even as a kid, how I could be lighthearted and happy about Palm Sunday when I knew what was only days away, and how even now I can claim joy every day when I can't celebrate or I plain don't know what lies ahead. May these words resonate with you too this morning and take the place of palm. Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy. Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy. And so come together, let us lay down our burdens and lift up hope and join with us fellow travelers on the journey. Some faces are new, most of these faces are familiar. All are welcome as we worship together. My name is Annie Lavin, and I am your service leader this morning. Our guest speaker is Bob Clegg, a longtime friend of UUCR. He has given a number of wonderful talks here over the years when he was more local, but a couple of years ago, he moved and became a member of All Souls Waccamaw UUs in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And now we welcome him on his return visits, and so happy when he does come up. Bob holds a Master's of Divinity from Wesley Theological Seminary, a PhD in chemistry from University of Oregon. In 23, he retired from Justice Jobs of Maryland, a free nonprofit employment office in Frederick, which he founded and led for 6 years. Now, Justice Jobs continues operations under new management, and Bob is enjoying a slower pace in South Carolina. Do you believe that? He serves as the worship coordinator and piano accompanist for his congregation's worship services. He preaches monthly. He volunteers in a nonprofit organization that housed 665 families last year and does legislative advocacy through South Carolina's version of the UU Legislative Ministry. Next week, Bob and a friend will embark on a 7-week cycling trip from Paris to the Black Sea. Bob and his wife Connie live near Conway, South Carolina, with their pets, many fuzzy pets. Bob's sermon today is timely and important. Its title is Principles Over Politics and Sabbath as Resistance. He'll be including a reflection and a meditation along with the sermon as we work through identifying our own priorities to focus on at this time, when there is so much that is calling us to become involved in, where to put our energies in these uncertain times. And also, and as important, he'll speak on keeping the gift of the Sabbath as a way of keeping spiritual balance in these tumultuous times. There's a lot packed in here, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. But first, gratitude to our accompanist, Michael Casey, and the tech team, and all those who helped make this service happen. Your names are in the order of service, and we are grateful. If you're thinking of joining this needed group, please sign up. The whiteboard is in the foyer, and we need your names on it. We have one announcement this morning. I'm going to give you an umbrella announcement. Every week, we have reflections that comes out. If you're not reading it, you're losing information. It is so well formatted. After taking over yearbook duties for many years, I know a good format when I see it. And when you're looking, you don't have to go through so much to find what you're looking for. The information is clear, it's concise, it's there. I learn something new every week. And this week I found out that Reverend Catherine will be scheduling appointments for in-person conversations on first Thursdays, starting at noon. She wants to reach out and get to know us and bring us into the ministry. I mean, how special is that? UUCR is having their April potluck at the Ramsey's home on April 18th at 6 p.m. Bring a dish and be ready for a wonderful time. And my last announcement is that the UUCR grounds cleanup is next Saturday, April the 19th at 9 a.m. That is the rain date from yesterday. It was postponed, and feel free to weed in between time. Just come out and weed your heart away. Trash bags are behind the building. Thank you, Diane. And now, if your phones are silenced, we can begin. We will have our chalice lighting, and Bob will read the words, will lead you in reading the words in your order of service, and I will light the chalice.
Thank you, Annie. We light our chalice with these words from the Reverend Lee Blumel. We light our chalice, this ancient symbol of communion and equality, symbol of mystics and heretics, reformers and refugees, artists, activists, and Unitarian Universalists everywhere. Please stand in body or in spirit. The hymn is number 361 in the gray hymnal, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. That's 361.
If you're like me, you may have heard the word Sabbath as a little one, spoken by adults, and then later its meaning in Hebrew classes or catechism or CCD, remember that? Preparing for the sacraments or for a better understanding of a religion that we would follow for many years. I recall being told it came from the Hebrew Shabbat, a day of rest when God rested after creation, and always wondering why God had to rest after creation, and wanting to raise my hand and ask the question, but knowing which questions you didn't raise your hand for. And where some of us are old enough to remember some of those Sabbath days, they were days of rest, and the shops were closed, and work pretty much came to a standstill. And then it all changed, and folks realized that they could make money on the Sabbath as well. And it became a day like any other day, with the malls open and quickly blended into another day of commerce, a day to quickly finish up last week's work before a new week began, without time to catch one's breath and find meaning and balance in the rhythm of our days, and that void has been with us ever since. This morning, and with great intention, we return to the deeper meaning and the many nuances of Sabbath that our ancestors knew and honored, that take us deeply into the Hebrew meaning of rest, remembering it is not only productivity that gives us purpose, it's these times of pause as well. A time to let work and worry wait, even for a short time, and fully embrace joy, deep satisfaction in life and love as it presents itself to us, like this moment. And so together, as we recite this responsive poem in your order of service, let us be lightened on this Sabbath day. It's a responsive reading. The Spirit and Gift of the Sabbath by Curtis Beard. I'll read the first part, and in response, you will read the italicized, please. The Sabbath. This may be a new way of thinking of the Sabbath for many of you. A guiltless moment of reflection and soul rest. Time when fixing the broken, solving the problem of meeting their needs is suspended. The focus becomes grace, forgiveness, and solace for the soul. The sound is that of hearing the care of God, experiencing a work of grace, and finding again the song in your soul. For at least a second, the context of time gives way to the essence of the eternal. The Sabbath, that the Sabbath provides a chance to be comfortable and comforted in an out-of-control world, a world short on care and long on sensation and threat, a world that addresses the dark with a thrill and flees from the healing grace of silence. The Sabbath is invigorating. It shows us more than the obvious and looks past the pain. It offers hope and healing. The Sabbath offers freedom. It frees the slave. I love that clip art on the front. If there's an image that speaks to me of the Eastern Shore on a Sunday or any day when the sun is shining, to me that would be it. A new way of thinking of every day, but especially the Sabbath. And now we go into acknowledgments of the heart, that time when we share joys and concerns, the bright spots and the shadowy ones with each other. It builds community as we share our lives with each other. I will light a candle if you would like to come up and use the mic to share what's in your heart this morning. I think I'm going to start with something that I'm going to light the candle. I usually do this when I'm early in the month. I usually say all the people's birthdays, but I'm not going to do it today because I looked and there's about 7 or 8 birthdays. But there's one that I'm going to mention because this Thursday is the birthday of someone who's very close to my heart. Jimmy turns 90 this Thursday, and so I'm going to light this candle with a special amount of love, and I invite you to join me as I light this for my dear husband, Jim Lavin. This is for you, hon. And blessed be. I will be passing the offering baskets at this time for the mission of this church. The generosity of this congregation is beautiful. You give in so many ways, and we thank you for each of the many ways that you help our congregation live its mission. Thank you.
I should say the piece that I opened with was the Gavotte from Bach's English Suite number 3 in G minor. This is a hymn called Don't Forget the Sabbath. And now we welcome Bob to our pulpit.
My, you have grown. How many of you are familiar with the Serenity Prayer. Most of us, all of us. When I first saw it, when I was a kid, I thought it was a joke because it's got the three-part structure of a joke and all that, and it is kind of cute. But it's also a serious thing. God grant me the serenity, I think you remember it, to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There are three parts to this prayer, and the first, the things we cannot change, are those things that are outside of us, really way outside of us. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's a space between the things we cannot change and the things that we can, which are in here. There's a space there. But first, the things that are way outside of us that we cannot change, those are things like, well, national political decisions, right? They're made. How other people choose to act, other people and not us. We can't really change that. None of us can change each other, even our closest loved ones. The speed of social change or political shifts, natural disasters, we can't change that, economic downturns, you could go on and on and on. From here out, we just can't utter an edict and change anything. We might think we can, but there will always be the possibility for resistance, right? Those are things that are beyond our sphere of control, which is in here. We can't solve them, and really to worry about them if we have no power to change them is a waste of time. They're what Stephen Covey calls the universe. Then there's the second part of the Serenity Prayer, which is the things we can change. And those things are from here in, or from there in for you. That's ourselves, it's you and me, things we can change. We can change things that we choose to think about, at least to some degree, as far as my rambling mind will allow. How we spend our time, what causes we choose to support with our time or our money, how we respond to stress, say by meditating or practicing self-awareness or just coming apart at the seams. Those are all choices, right, that we can choose. Working on our neurological wiring. This is something that just really came to be thought of about 10 or 15 years ago that we can work on now through the miracle of the internet for free. How we treat other people. Those are things that we can change, and I'm working on that. Still a work in progress. It may be tough work, overcoming a difficult raising or hard to deal with genes, but from here in, that's within our power to change things. And that's what Stephen Covey calls my sphere of control. So we have the universe and the sphere of control, and in between those, though, there's a third layer that Covey calls a sphere of influence, a gray zone that the Serenity Prayer doesn't address. The sphere of influence contains things that are outside of us, but within range of our influence. They're not out of our control completely. We can influence them, even if we can't determine the outcome. That sphere of influence includes conversations that we have with friends about important issues, people that we can differ with but still converse with. For example, the fellow that I'm writing from, we've shortened it to Vienna to the Black Sea, but we're riding from Vienna to the Black Sea in a few weeks on bicycles. He's a voter who voted for Trump once and skipped the second time around because of January 6th. And he credits his skipping that election with some of the conversations he and I have had on our bike trips together. We can talk with each other and influence each other about important issues. Our sphere of influence includes the culture and direction of our churches and social action groups that we may join, the impact of our volunteer work on people that we offer a hand up to. And the sphere of influence includes our encouragement for other people to run for office so we'll have choices on the ballot the next time elections roll around, which in rural South Carolina, I want more than 2 out of 29 elective positions to offer me a choice. So I'm getting involved at that level, not running for office myself at this age, but serving as treasurer on the campaign of a millennial who's running for state senate. We can't control the outcomes on these things. We can't get Genesis Lorraine elected necessarily, but we can sure try. We can influence voters and build choices for future years. We can influence them. So in the moment of silence that follows, consider one of these questions. What things or people do you worry about that you have no real influence over, that you could turn loose of that worry? Who in your sphere of influence might be better for you to spend time with? Or what parts of your own spiritual experience might be better places for you to spend time on? Let's take a moment. I bring you greetings from All Souls Waccamaw UU congregation in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's so good to be with Marylanders again on this brisk, dark Palm Sunday morning. Robin Wall Kimmerer has written a short paragraph that sets the mood for what I have to offer you this morning, and I thank Annie for sending this to me. Kimmerer writes, "Even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return that gift." There are two things that I'd like to talk to you about this morning. The first is, how can we choose joy over despair as we seek to change our world? In that process, choosing joy over despair as we face seemingly insurmountable obstacles, how can we best choose our own personal causes so that we effect them with joy and not despair? And second, how can we choose joy over despair? By keeping centered in our own private worlds. This is the portion that Annie addressed so wonderfully with her remarks in the reading on the Sabbath, and I thank you for that. How can we maintain spiritual sanity, that is, in our spheres of control as we support our chosen causes? Because we're always carrying that sphere of control with us as we move out into the world to try to influence for change. So the first part of this talk, choosing our causes, is what I will call the outside job. It's not in here, it's not in there for you, it's outside from each of our perspectives. It has to do with our spheres of influence and not our spheres of control. That's the part of that the serenity prayer leaves out, the part in between ourselves and the universe. The second part of this talk, staying on track, that's the inside job for each of us. It's our sphere of control, the part of the serenity prayer where we ask for help to change the things we can, which is from here in. So part one, the outside job. When choosing where to spend my time and energy, I've been taught to rank issues according to whether they violate or agree with my principles. What's the principle here, Bob? My mentor friends would tell me. Not to see issues purely as political disputes, but to look for the principles and look for those as the hills that I'm willing to die on, and let the others go. Politics at its core is really not a bad word. Politics is the art of negotiation and compromise. Compromise is not a bad word, so long as we're not compromising on principle. And sometimes to work with others, we need to say, okay, I'll give you that one. And let's do a quid pro quo here. A quid pro quo is not necessarily a bad term. Politics at its core is the art of negotiation and compromise. In its best sense, it's the art of getting things done in a group. But we all have some things that we're not willing to compromise. Those are our values and perhaps our rights that we're not willing to trade away. So that's where I choose to take my stand, on principles and not politics. Politics would then be a subset of principles. And I have to distinguish between where it's most important and where I can trade away a little political capital to gain some for later on. That helps me determine the issues that for me are the hills I am willing to die on. In my world, rural county, Horry County, Horry. Where do you get Horry County? But that's how the locals say it, so it's Horry County, South Carolina. Those hills for me are democracy. Get that? Democracy, the Constitution, and human rights. I can sum it up for me there. The democracy, the Constitution, and human rights. That covers anti-authoritarianism, the Bill of Rights, the whole bit. That's why it's my areas of activism. I've chosen advocacy in South Carolina's UU legislative ministry. We call it SCUJA. Sounds like a skin condition, but we're working with on that. Volunteerism, I do at a nonprofit that helps people get housed and stay housed. A very little role starting out there, working in the warehouse, and it's a good workout for me to do that. Representing my UU congregation through public speaking at rallies, demonstrations, and protests. And I'm grateful to be trusted in that role. And serving as my congregation's worship facilitator. When I see a threat to principles like the free expression of ideas, the freedom to assemble, and the basics of human dignity, that's when I know I need to respond and stand up. Not because of my political affiliation, but because my conscience demands it. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we affirm and promote principles and values that guide us in discerning our own personal principles, the hills that we are all willing to die on. We affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We seek justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We uphold the right of consciousness and the use of the democratic process. These are the principles that you gave me when I became a UU a little over 10 years ago that made my world so much bigger than the primary purpose of the Recovery Fellowship that I have belonged to for many more years than that. You made my world bigger. 10 years ago, I would not have been prepared to stand up for democracy and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and human rights. I was not ready for that then, but you made my world larger with these principles. All of us can take these principles and use them to determine what we are able to do. They're not just words, they're calls to action. They're an ethical framework that helps us to determine where to place our energy and what battles we are willing to fight. So you can use these for yourself, this ethical framework, and work through that framework as a discernment process. And you're bound to come up with different answers from each other and from me. Your mileage will vary. That's because we're all different people. We bring unique experiences to this moment, that make us the diverse group of people we are. We filter the news of the day through the principles and the values and we filter the news of the day as much as we can stand to listen to it. And I'll listen to NPR now for about 10 minutes and Fox News for about 8 because I want to hear what the other side is saying, because it helps me craft my arguments with them. I'm not blindsided when that comes out. And that's about all I can take. And then I flip it over to the beach music station and listen to some Nat King Cole. And I filter the news. That's enough, though, for me to filter the news through the values and principles, to stay aware and with what I can do in my sphere of control and not out there in the universe that I'm not going to worry about. I'll be concerned about it, but I won't be worried about it. And that allows me to come up with my own synthesis of priorities. And you can come up with 45 diverse syntheses of priorities because we all bring different skills and proclivities to this moment. And that makes for diversity. Pluralism. Ever hear that before? One of our values. And another value, interdependence, the certainty that everything, every issue ultimately will get addressed by somebody because we will cover the bases together that we could not have covered alone. We all have a right, we have indeed a responsibility to carry out our own free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And the bottom line is we all need to spend time in reflection and study and group sharing to discern which hills we individually are willing to die on. Each of us needs to consciously discern what issues we will choose to spend our time on as we try to leave this world a little bit better than we found it. And we should choose issues that resonate with us, that we love to work on, and that offer us ways to work that we enjoy, so that we can derive some sense of joy from that work. And aside here to our seniors, I'm not the only person with gray hair in this room, so some people may be thinking that their time for this has come and gone. My mentor's wife, my mentor, I'll be visiting in New Jersey later today and tomorrow morning. His wife died. He's 86 years old. His 57-year-old wife died 4 years ago. Within 2 weeks, he told me, you know, Andrea has died now, and I have to find something different than Andrea for my meaning in life. And living into my 90s is not it. He just said that 2 weeks later. I'm like, are you going to grieve or what? But he is now learning. He's a philosophy professor. They never retire. They just keep philosophizing. He is learning Egyptian hieroglyphics because he wants to learn to think non-linearly, and that's the last written non-linear language. Imagine that. He's also writing her memoirs about her grandmother who and her survival in Europe during World War II. From Andrea's notes, from his wife's notes. This is his new meaning in life. Another example, my mother, at the age of 91, about 5 years ago, asked me one day, she said, how can I, she said, you know, you're going to Pennsylvania to do poll watching. I can't do that. She's in a retirement home. And she said, how can I do something? I'm like, well, Mom, maybe you can just do it vicariously through me. I didn't know. She, on her own, got the number for the elections board in Asheville, North Carolina, where she lived. And they came up and trained her up on the hill at the Baptist homes to register people to vote. And she registered 7 voters and helped them vote and put their votes in the envelopes and mailed them off. That's how she became active during that election. And by her count, out of those 7 voters, it was 5-2 in favor of her party. and she was able to contribute that way. 2 days ago, my therapist told me, she says, it sounds like we're working on issues that a lot of people your age come in with, and that's just little existential issues of she didn't say little, but to me they're little really, existential issues of angst, of aging. And how are are you preparing what she says, what you're asking me is, how can I prepare myself for the changes that I see that are coming? And she says, I want you to work on that. And I had given her my life's mission statement, which is to help other people in the language of their own spirituality. To help other people in the language of their own spirituality is what I do and have done for the last 15 years spiritually. That includes that included a fundamentalist in seminary who came to me to talk to when he was having trouble in his marriage because he couldn't talk to his own kind. He didn't trust him, but he could talk to this UU. And at the end of our two-hour sessions together, counseling on those marriage issues, I asked him if I could pray, if he wanted to pray, and he said yes, and he took my hand, and I waited, and then I realized, oh, he's waiting on me. And I prayed at the conclusion of that prayer in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen, because I was speaking in his language, not mine, which would have been in the name of all that is justice, sacrifice, and peace, which is the same thing, right? So she said, take that mission statement to mission to other people in the language of their own spirituality and analyze it and see if it needs to be revised for where you expect you will be in the next 5 or 10 years. And I really look forward to doing that in the coming weeks on this vacation. What is that going to look like? How can that look like? We can all be relevant, and she's challenging me to prepare to be relevant with our time, with our money. It's not just a matter of whether we can be relevant, but how can we creatively create relevance for ourselves? That's what resilience is all about. Life is too short to be dreary and boring and glum. Even when we're working on social justice issues, and even when we're aging and aging and aging. If by some chance there's a God in heaven, I'm sure it would not have put me here to excel at things that I can't stand, or to devote myself wholeheartedly to things that I hate. Our work in the world should not be a work of despair. I choose joy over despair. Moving on to the second part of this talk, how to keep on track in practicing these choices. How to maintain a spiritual balance, which is the inside job. To be effective in whatever work we choose and to sustain our commitment over time, we must maintain our spiritual center. Maintaining that spiritual center, which is somewhere within that sphere of control, right? I actually tend to believe the research that suggests it's on the ventromedial aspect of the frontal lobe. There's a place there that lights up when we think about God or spirituality. That doesn't mean that that's where God is, but it's where the idea of God is. And that helps me to focus on that area mentally, cognitively, as I seek to maintain a spiritual balance. It's the center of the inside job. To be effective in whatever work we choose out there on the other 6 days, to sustain that commitment over time and not burn out, we have to maintain that spiritual center. It means maintaining that spiritual center means that we need to build practices of rest and renewal and self-awareness so that we don't burn out. Without those practices, we will fall into the trap of activism fueled by ego, which I've seen in all levels of service, rather than activism rooted in love, which is what we need. I have been taught that to stay strong and to stay spiritually centered, I need to do the following 5 things. I need to regularly rest, not just when I'm toast. I desist from consumerism, which I'm working on. Jeff Bezos has made it mighty convenient for me to 3 clicks and consume whatever I want to. So my wife and I together are working on that, and on that desisting from consumerism and getting the things that we need and not everything that we want to try to fill up our lives with concrete things that constitute meaning. I need to meditate. I need to read the spiritual literature and I need to commune with like-minded souls on a regular basis. Those 5 things: rest, desist from consumerism, meditate, read, and commune. These are not just acts of self-care, they are acts of resistance in themselves. In his book, Sabbath as Resistance, Walter Brueggemann points out that our modern world is driven by the demand for endless productivity and consumption, that our culture measures our worth by what we produce and what we consume. And in such a world, Brueggemann argues, taking time for rest and renewal is itself a form of defiance. To step away from the urgency of the news cycle. To refuse to be caught in the cycle of outrage and exhaustion is to reclaim our own humanity. When we rest, we remember that we are more than the sum of our political actions and our principled actions. When we take time for reflection and silence, we reconnect with the values that call us to justice work in the first place. And when we gather together in spiritual community as we are this morning, we remind one another that we are not alone in our struggles. We are not alone. This is why, even in moments of deep urgency, we have to carve out space for renewal. This is why, even as we confront real and pressing injustice out in the world, we must strategically and intentionally pause to nurture our spirits. To practice Sabbath, as my experience has taught me I need to do weekly, and mine is now either on a Monday or a Wednesday, depending on the schedule of the week. So it's not entirely regular. There are some lurches there, but when I return in June, I've informed everybody, don't call me on Wednesday, I'll be unplugged. That will be my Sabbath. I don't want to do it on Sunday because I'm working on Sabbath. I'm producing for other people on Sabbath, on Sunday. I'm working right now, and sure, it's restful, but it's not the same as sitting in the pew and receiving. And I do that on Mondays and Wednesdays, and it will be Wednesday before long. To practice Sabbath in that way is not to abandon the world's struggles. Practicing Sabbath is to actively resist while taking a break from the emotionally charged resistance in the public square. Practicing Sabbath is devoting one full day a week to focus on developing and growing my spiritual practice or yours. To practice Sabbath is to keep connected to whatever it is that keeps me taking the next step. And that's as far as I can articulate that, but there's something that is motivating me to keep on keeping on. It is to avoid the temptation of self-righteousness, the illusion that we alone can solve all those problems. And practicing Sabbath is to remember that our own inherent worth and dignity don't come from our activism. They come from something deeper, something sacred and unshakable. To practice Sabbath is to commit ourselves to a regular program of renewal that leads to joy and not despair, not as a choice or direct force of will, getting to that joy, not as a choice or a direct act of will. We don't choose it that way, but that joy comes to us as the natural outflow of the process of spiritual attunement that happens on Sabbath. Practicing Sabbath is to align our lives with rhythms that are deeper than the noise of urgency, rhythms where rest becomes sacred and gratitude blossoms without being forced, as the trees are blossoming right now. Seen the redbuds? That's what happens on Sabbath. To practice Sabbath is to choose joy over despair, no matter what the external circumstances are. Our own Sabbath, our own joy, are both well within our circles of control. If there's one thing that you remember from this message this morning, I hope it's 2 things. First, we all need to be intentional in developing and growing our spiritual priorities. And secondly, we all need to take regular time off to resist the incessant demands of society, to rest and regenerate from the cycles of activism, from production, from consumption, and from the urgency of the news cycle. The work of justice is long and sometimes discouraging, but if we cultivate a practice of rest and renewal, if we remain grounded in our values and connected to our communities, we will be resilient and will have the strength to continue. So as you move forward into another week, choose your battles wisely. Stand firm in your principles. Be not swayed by the chaos of politics, but be rooted to the enduring call of justice. Take time to rest and reflect and nurture your spirits, and know that the work of love and liberation is not yours alone to carry. The hymn that we will sing is number 188 in the gray hymnal. You may remain seated for number 180, or you may stand up if you wish. We're UUs, we can do whatever we want to in that regard, right? It's number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, 188.
I think we're going to sing it in rounds.
That's right. Go ahead, you got it.
Well, I'm passing it right back to those who are leading us in rounds. Okay, so I believe that Michael and Bob will be.
You got that side, Michael?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, let's have this side come in as they're saying ours.
Would it be easier if you sat for this? I mean, for the rounds? Okay, people are saying yes. So you just sing with gusto.
Should they come in on ours or Wanderer?
Why don't we do ours?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you'll so on that side, watch Michael, and he will cue you, and we'll start it off. You want to sing it all together one time first, and then we'll break up into rounds for 3 rounds?
Yeah, this is the melody.
Whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of weeping, ours is no paradise or no despair. Come, yet again, come.
Yeah.
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of weeping, ours is the caravan of despair. Come, yet again, lover of weeping, ours is the caravan, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of weeping, ours is the caravan of despair. Come, yet again, lover of weeping, ours is the caravan of despair. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of weeping, ours is the caravan of despair. Come, yet again, lover of weeping, ours is the caravan of despair. I think they could have done it in 4 rounds. I think they could have done it in 4 rounds.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to have time for the discussion. Do you want to go into the other? Want to go into the last reading?
That would be great.
It's 10 o'clock now.
Annie and I have decided to skip the discussion this morning because I went a bit long, and we all did. So we're going to go ahead and go into the closing hymn, and I look forward to having discussions with you at coffee and conversation after the service. The hymn, May the Work I've Done Speak for Me.
Now, the words to this are inside your order of service. You've most probably found it already. There it is. Everybody have it? It's on a sheet of paper that is inside the Sabbath reading.
Do you want me to play through it first?
So if
Yes.
you have that, yes. Let me say one thing about this hymn. This is an African-American gospel tune, not really a spiritual, but it's a gospel tune that goes way back, and it was put into vinyl by the Consolers, who were Sullivan and Iola Pugh in 1968. And so it comes to us courtesy of YouTube. Michael has just worked up, as he can do, on the first pass, an amazing rendition of the accompaniment for it. And it's a very UU hymn. I think it should be in the next printing of our UU hymnal. Listen to the lyrics as you read them. It's all UU. May the work I've done speak for me. May the work I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave and there's nothing left to be said, may the work I've done speak for me. May the life I live speak for me. May the life I live speak for me. When my best I've tried to give, may my mistakes all be forgiven. May the life I live speak for me. May the service I give speak for me. May the service I give speak for me. When I've done the best I can and my friends don't understand, may the service I give speak for me. The work I've done, it seems so small. Sometimes it seems like nothing at all. You know this part. When my time in earth is done, I want to hear the words, well done. May the life I live speak for me. Good job.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone. And now we're going to extinguish the chalice with the closing words that are in your order of service. These are words from Hosea Ballou, who is one of the founders of American Universalism. This was active in the 1800s. Okay? If we agree in love, there is no disagreement that can do us any harm. Now, our song of benediction.
This is a bit of Mozart.
Thank you to Michael. Thank you to Bob. And now for those of you who know God, may God go with you. For those of you who love life, may life return the affection. And for those of you who are seeking truth, may you find the path and take it every day. Have a wonderful week and enjoy coffee and an opportunity to talk further with Bob Clegg. Thank you.